Welcome back to Edinburgh for our latest episode of Box 2 in partnership with Best Western Hotels GB, supporting local, proudly independent hotels. Welcome back to Box 2 in partnership with Best Western's Hotel GB. I'm Jimmy Jones-Buchanan, and this week I'm joined by the man-child himself, Chev Walker, the Leeds Rhinos first team assistant coach. An ex-teammate and somebody who goes a long way back in my journey at the Leeds Rhinos. I was thinking about it yesterday, Chev, having a chat with you today, and mate, I'm full of gratitude every day. I got excited, hairs up back of my neck, thinking back to when we grew up in Leeds fans, and got that opportunity to represent the great club, the Blue and Amber. I was a bit before you, a little bit older, but joking aside, the man-child, Chev was massive, even back then. Probably. Yeah. You've been that big since...
I've been this big since about...
Underage?
Underage, but 15s, yeah.
Just thinking back, mate, to when you was a kid, what do you remember about some of your earliest memories coming in at Rhinos fold?
Coming in, excitement. It's from the age of 11, I played a curtain raiser at Wembley. 1994, Leeds had played Wigan. Doug Lawton were having a chat with a couple of us and asked us what we wanted to do when we were older, and I said, I'm going to play for Leeds. Yes. That adamant. And I were straight cut down the line, and that's it. I got my mind set on it, and that's all we're going to do. So when I got the opportunity to come, which were later down the line, like everybody else had signed, and Bob overseeing me just says I was a big kid that wasn't going to make it. Right. Dean had come to check on Rob and Danny to see how they were performing, and we were playing for Yorkshire or somebody. And I got the opportunity to sign for Leeds, which were everything that I'd wanted. Everything that I'd worked towards. So when I got here, I was just excited. I was looking forward to having my foot in the door and aiming to get a crack at playing first team. It's what I wanted to do. It was a dream.
I remember Dean Bell coming to one of my matches, Yorkshire, and I knew that he was coming. There was a few clubs at the time. I just wanted to sign for Leeds, you know. And I got man at match in this Yorkshire game, and he sort of went, "Come on then!" Like, and that opportunity was unbelievable. We've just been outside now, Sponsors Day, so some of our sponsors, partners, stakeholders, lots of young kids in there as well, fans asking questions at players. It's where it all starts, that inspiration. It's good to get amongst it, innit?
Of course it is, yeah. And the club do it so well, bringing sponsors, fans in. But yeah, there might be a player out there that in 4 or 5 years down the line is knocking on the door of scholarship, and then another 3-4 years after that is running out with the first team. So it is, the more they can get exposed to it, more they can be around it and start to feel part of it, they can dream and believe that they can get there.
Amen. We'll talk a little bit more about you bullying seasoned pros at 17 years old in a bit, but just reflecting back on last game, Huddersfield, tough start, bit of turmoil at the beginning. Bentos, James Bentley went down, Ed Nockey's fine, he's good. Been chatting outside with him just now. Harry Newman as well early on, conceded a few points, weren't quite able to claw it back. But what was your take on performance?
Effort's never been a problem. I think it's a little bit of confidence, stroke, belief, and we were just forcing it. They were a bit on the line, and there were offloads that people don't normally throw, bad reads in D that people don't normally make. I think it was by over trying, and then a couple of calls went against us. But I don't really like to blame refs or talk about refs as in the results. But if you're good enough, referees it don't matter. You make your own look and things come off. So I just wish the players could believe in themselves as much as we do, and they'd be a little bit more confident and probably a little bit more relaxed going into games. They just need to have a little bit more belief. But start of the game, probably just forced too much. Cost.
And you do, when you care, you do, don't you? You can overplay. And talk to Cam Smith all the time and just extending a few texts, and it always sort of finishes off, I love this club, but we'll get there. We're not a million miles by no way, shape or form. This year's there's been a bit of, I don't know, what the word, a bit of turmoil at times, players leaving at certain periods, injuries that have come about. There's been a lot to deal with, and just yourself being an assistant coach, right in the thick of it there with Rohan and the leadership team, but also having that ability to spend a bit of time with players, having a bit of an helicopter view. What's been your take on some of the challenges this season, and what have you learned, Chev?
It's not been ideal. Players leaving, and there's a little bit of outside noise. Being a Leeds fan, and you know people from Leeds. I'm from Leeds, so people just jump to the assumption that the club's not in the right place. Now, for me, if them players want to leave, they're not in the right place. So I come to work wanting to deal with the players that want to be here, and work your socks off for them. And there's a group of players there that you say we love the club. They want to be here and they want to work hard for it. So it's disruptive, but what do? You either think and focus on the negative, or you think about the rest of the lads that you've got your eyes on that are going to be the future of the club.
Amen to that. I was always scared to death of being short. I was running around, playing too long. Probably a bit like myself, Chev, you've obviously side at pitch there, field, headphones on, getting that instruction, two-way communication. Yourself, Rich Onyx, Rohan Smith, Grixie. Tell us a little bit about what it's like, that experience, being pitch side at the heat of the moment, and in some of those tight games in which we've played a fair few, the one-pointers, golden points, getting those little intricate messages on at right times to the right people. Yeah,
it's about being calm, and translating some of it. Like Rohan will send quite a bit down at times. Sometimes there's nothing, and being in the yellow shirt, you're the bridge between. So just trying to get a feel of what the players are feeling, and then translating some stuff that Rohan's coming down. Sometimes I might have to chip a little bit off the actual message. But it's just getting a feel of what Rohan needs, and then how I'm going to translate that to the players so that they get it in a snapshot and be able to either go forward or stop doing what they're doing. Yeah.
Next year is the 20 years since we won that first grand final, which he was obviously a part of. Just winding that back, sometimes people forget that generation, that group of players took 4 or 5 years coming through to develop, to grow. We're seeing a lot of that now within our team. Morgan Gannons, Jack Sinfields, Max Simpsons, God willing, will keep developing and growing with some senior players around them. But going back, just the dynamic of what we had, sometimes you don't realise how special it was till it's long gone. Different generation, different time. Really nice to have in our memory banks. But what do you remember about that culture, that environment, that camaraderie that we had growing up?
I'd say that we're different in many ways, like completely different people, but we all had the one common cause of being winners. Like we wanted to win. We were all competitive in our own ways. We were all respectful of each other. But it was, like I say, we were different, but not like the core of us was all the same. And it's shown in the way that we played for each other. A lot of selfless people, a lot of hard-working people, and then there was a bunch of crazy ones, a bunch of straight ones. But again, it worked because we were all aiming towards becoming something that we wanted to be, or helping someone else become what they wanted to be. We're a special group, not manufactured. I often think about it, and I did a lot last year when I was academy coach, was what was the one thing that the scouts were looking for, because we was all so similar as drive to go and do well. But like I say, nothing stood out, but it was just evident that it were there that we were all similar in one way or another towards what we were doing. So it was a very special group, and we're all doing well now, even away from the game afterwards, because of that way that we worked then. And we've took that through our lives.
One of my highlights the last couple of weeks, we had about 20 ex-players come along, and Carl Pratt was one of them, growing up in the same sort of neck of woods as you did, and he was prominent. I think he's about 3 or 4 players in heritage number before mine, and whenever I see him, mate, I get a buzz. We all want the same thing. Just thinking about some of the senior players, when you come through that, Daz, Faz, Barry, Mark, and then you've got the bottom end there, people like Mark Calderwood, Ryan Bailey, back your age, a little bit younger. What was that dynamic like? Who were some of the mentors when you come into the team, put your arms around you and showed you a few of the ropes?
Moz was big for me. He'd done a lot as a youngster. Took me under his wing. Took me off the path a little bit, but taught me about working hard and doing what were right for the team and stuff. Daz and Faz was very good. Again, they took a shine into me. I thought all the old blokes was good. They were all good in their own way. They taught us something. Some of them were a different way of teaching us, but like the respect thing and how it trickled down, And also learned some stuff from, I don't want to mention, but you learned some stuff that you didn't want to do either, and you didn't want to carry on into when you was become a senior player.
Yeah, how not to do it.
Yeah, no, not to do it. But again, good people, and there were never no jealousy. They must have seen us coming. Yeah. They must have done. You get that feel of a good bunch of young players, and we were going to squeeze them out, but they never went against us. Franny Cummins especially. He always took time to coach us, even though we were playing and we were fighting for the same positions. He always took his time to coach us. Yeah. So it was great for us. Yeah, Franny sent me a text this week as well. I think people say, do you miss playing? I don't. Not really, because you still spend the time with those players, having the same engagements. The rugby, as much as I love it, it's still my favourite sport. It becomes almost incidental. I remember once you scoring a try, you come back under, and you were still accelerating when you went through the post. You put the ball down. I thought you were going to run up stand and back into the top of houses there. I remember Daz and Faz looking at each other going, who's this kid here? And then just quickly, if you don't mind mentioning, it's all public, it's in the historical domain, Challenge Cup, all the way, quite relevant because we're playing all this weekend at the Boulevard, and Paul Broadbent had a bit of a dig at the 17-year-old kid, and you went, boom, 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 boom. And that was wow. What do you remember about that particular occasion? What was it when you go home to your peers and your mates, essentially still children? Yeah, I think that side of me comes from my upbringing. Right. You fight for what you need to. You stand up for yourself. You never cause trouble. Yeah. He'd give me a little bit in the ruck and rigged his head in and said a few words to me that I didn't take a liking to. So I've spouted back and he's had a crack. So I've popped him as I was brought up to do. So I would have never thrown the first punch, but I would never get in it for as soon as I seen him cock it, I was like, I've got to look after myself here. But yeah, then going home, my mum was like, that's disrespectful, he's a senior bloke and you shouldn't have done that. And then when I told her the story, she was like, all right, I understand why. Yeah. Brilliant, mate, opened our eyes, certainly. So going into the 2004, that first grand final win, I always tell the story, I grew up supporting Leeds, never quite seen him win a trophy. And to be there on the field and be a part of it, unbelievably special. And we'll touch on it in a second, some adversity leading up to that with yourself and Ryan Bailey. But what was it like at Old Trafford, being a part of a team, having watched them so long and quite often seen them fall short? Magic, because of the group that we're with. We'd grown up together, like yourself, Kev, Disco, Wardy. We'd all played academy at some period or played reserves, and we had that bond that we spoke about. But I felt so confident, all year. There were times in that 2004 year where, Tony was that good at making us feel good about what we were doing. We didn't know we were playing. I didn't at times. Yeah. It was just another game. Grand final was a little bit different, but it were, like I say, I felt it. I felt like we were going to do it. And it was, probably the best game I've been involved in, but because of what it meant to the club and what it meant to us as a group, it was a special night. Unbelievable. You're right in what you're saying about Tony. We'll touch on Tony in a bit, because his coach, as we know, is related to Rohan Smith. A lot of connections, links there, but I remember him talking about no matter what game you're playing in, we're always trying to do our best and going through the process and the rest of it, and he did have a way of making you believe and not get overwhelmed with the occasion, which were massive. Just going back 12, 18 months before that, bit of adversity there, incident in town, obviously well documented again, not too long after some of our cousins over the road there at Ellen Road had been in a bit of bother as well. Yep. This was your time round, ended up spending a little bit of time in prison, and interestingly, Phil Daly was telling me that you got an email recently off one of guys who used to give you a telly and let you watch some of the games and stay in touch. Just tell us, A, about that, and B, that moment in your life, and it's a significant, I won't say life changer, but educational moment that I imagine had a great deal of influence on who you were then and who you are now. Yeah. I suppose up until that point, life was a roller coaster, pretty easy. Turned up at 16, got my chance within 2 months of being at the club. Already played in a World Cup, so everything was really positive. And then I got put myself in a situation that was my fault effectively. I thought I was doing the right thing by helping a girl, and it ended up being a fight. They can't send me to jail for nothing. So I put myself in a situation, drinking in town, and got in some trouble and ended up going there. But I don't have any regrets about it, and I'm quite grateful for that period of my life because I learned a lot about myself. I know that I can handle stuff, and I'm quite proud of how I dealt with that. And not that I grew up, I've always been quite mature in my thoughts, but yeah, I realised how quick rugby could be gone. And I never took it for granted, never took the game for granted, but I just knew that I were able to deal with anything that life were going to throw at me after that point. But I was also grateful to Tony and to the club that they stuck by me. And in that period of being in there, Tony wasn't as coach, but he came to jail to see me. And he just took a pressure off. I was a bit thinking, new coach is going to be coming in, where do I stand? He's going to have this like perception of me being a thug really, and that's not how I've ever been, that's not how I live. But I had that, and he came and just popped that bubble of pressure and relief. And I trained the house down. I wanted to be ready to come and play for him. And I came out on the 15th of December, played Boxing Day. I was ready to go. I was like, I want to play for this bloke, and I wanted to give back to you. I'd watched that 2003 semi where you'd lost and felt really guilty that not that I was a match winner or anything, but could I have given more? Could I have been out there with you and done it that year? So from that point forward as well, from the prison thing, I chose to never let my teammates down again, and I've never been in trouble since, and I don't intend in ever being in trouble again, and putting the team, the club, everything else before anything else, and being right for them. So yeah, it was a strange period, but a really enlightening one and a good one.
It's amazing for you to share, and again next year, 20 years. Hopefully we'll be able to document a few more stories with the likes of Marcus Bai, Chris McKenna, yourself, Coldwood, Bales, some of Danny Ward maybe as well, some of those characters, and just get another insight into some of what is a real special period, what was a very special period in our history. I just got to touch, because I'm sure Phil will have some photographs as well. The Afro in 2023. Now, it was a bit before I started to lose the old hairline and I tried to copy it. Some of it gone, wasn't nowhere near as good as yours. Mine's horrendous looking back, but
it was that was actually linked to that trouble. I was on bail for 15, 16 months, and I was like, I'm not getting my hair cut until this is all over. And I just carried on growing it. And yeah, so the Afro became part of that whole period of, right, let's see what happens at the end of this, and I'm not getting it cut until I know what's going on with it.
Right.
Got sentenced, came out with short hair, gone. So that was it. We're like,
I didn't realise
yeah. No one knew that.
No.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Afro actually came from that. It was like, all right.
You've got it there, exclusive on Box 2. That's what it's all about. I did see him with my beard, John Tansey. I think Tansey said, let's not have a shave until we've won 5 games or something. And we had a bad start to 2007, and my beard was out here. I thought, this is pretty cool. I'm going to stick with it. 2004, win the grand final. 2005, Ellen Road, Sonny Bill Williams, Canterbury Bulldogs. World Club champions, getting bashed to bits. Marcus Bai flying all over us, cannonballs. And then 2006, obviously, Rugby Union opportunity come along, went to Bath. Just tell us about that exit year, your mindset towards that. Obviously, a new opportunity, and it's a great game, an aspirational one. And in your early experiences with that?
Yeah, there was some political bits going off with the club, again, following the prison bit, and I don't really want to delve into that, but I had some goals that I wanted to achieve off the field, and how the prison bit ended and got dealt with, I ended up having a fine afterwards that I wasn't aware of. It was fine. It is what it is. And that in tow with Franny Cummins being too scared to leave the club. He'd been offered a deal at Wakey, I believe, and he seemed a little bit like he didn't want to really leave the club, and which is all well and good, but he'd stopped playing, and I was like, oh, I never want to be that bloke that if there's no deal here, and I've been here that long, like, I'll retire because I don't want to know new. So I'm being a little bit of a thinker. I was like, well, Franny was 16 and then he got to this age and he's done it, and I'm like, and I respected Franny. I was like, I want to go and challenge myself. I want to go and move, and I never wanted to go to any other Super League club. So it was either NRL, where I'd been offered from Melbourne and Melbourne and Parramatta, and I'd just got with Lauren at the time, who's my wife now, and she was never going to come to Australia, so Rugby Union had been sniffing for a while, and I was ready for a new challenge. So I took the challenge, took the plunge, and went for a move, and we moved down there. I'd have had a bigger regret not ever going and trying Rugby Union. It'd always been there, and thought I could have made a go of it. And yeah, so we took the chance and we moved down there. Probably too young as a couple to move away. If we'd have had kids, it'd have been a little bit different. Home life, want the best. I had longer days. Rugby Union, like, always trained longer. Lauren was at home on her own. Not much work for her back down there at the time. So it was, off field was a mess basically. And Lauren had come back up north, and I was like, right, I've had a good crack. I played 18 games, some cup games, I'd played 8 premiership games. I was on a decent path. I played for Saxons twice, but I was sure I was going to be with Lauren for the rest of my life. So it was one of them. It's like sort life, home life out, and rest of it will look after itself. And me being down there on my own wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to play as well as I could have without Lauren being there. So yeah, so that kind of came to a halt pretty quick. But again, I've got no regrets because I tried it. Felt like I was getting somewhere with it. Didn't fulfil what I should have gone in there to do, but I took the plunge, and I got out of the bubble of Leeds. Yep. Here and living, got out of that and took some more life skills from elsewhere.
What is the culture difference like? It's interesting you said there, the bubble of Leeds. I've never really been out of it. Yeah. I get a nosebleed when I go too far. But what was the culture difference like in Union? Or is that a myth?
Yeah, it's a myth.
Is it?
Yeah, there's social differences. Like, a lot of them have been at private school and stuff, but you pull a kit on and you play with them, and you're willing to be yourself in that environment and not try and mould to be them. Then they accept you, and that goes anywhere. If when you try and pretend, if I'd have gone there and tried to fit in and pretend that I was from that social class, then I'd probably looked a bit phony. So I went down, I was myself, and they accepted me. The lads were great, the club were great. It was just other factors that why it didn't work out. But yeah, no, they're sportsmen and women are alike. No matter what, you pull a shirt on and you belong to that place, as long as you go down with the right intentions.
It's interesting you talk about Melbourne. I'm just thinking there whilst you're talking. If we played Melbourne in 2008. Yeah. If you had gone there, you could have ended up playing. That was arguably my favourite game of all time. At Ellen Road, beating an unbelievable team. Yeah. And you'd have been, I imagine, in other centre to English, potentially, you know, or on his wing or wherever. Anyway, another lifetime. So, become a career coach. Obviously, spent a bit of time at OKR. I don't want to go back to that injury you had at Edinburgh. Interesting, because I remember seeing it with Chev. I remember watching it back on television, and commentators thought it was your shin pad, and it was the shin coming through the sock. Horrendous time, obviously, with that. You've since gone on coaching and spent some time with rowing as well at Bradford Bulls. So obviously, this isn't your first journey with rowing. Tell us about your inclination and appetite for going into coaching, how that started, and what your experience with rowing was like.
So injuries, I was fine from 16 to 26, never really got injured, and then from 26 to 32 in retiring, I had like 20 operations, and like bang, 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 they were just one after the other. Whether it was bad management, my part, physios, either or, I don't know, but I just seemed to be plagued with injuries, and I were in the mornings doing rehab and started hanging around after training, doing little bits of extra bits and stuff, just trying to get myself right and fit. And I were in a hole of just doing the same stuff. So I started coaching the scholarship in 2012. Yeah. Just started coaching, and it was exactly the same feeling as that 11-year-old kid that turned up at Parkside. I was like, oh my God, where's this been all my life? Just watching young players like get better, and I got bit by it, and then I started getting obsessed by it, and I was like, I'm not bothered if I ever play again here. Like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So played again for another 2 years after that, 3 years after that. Played to 2015, and Jimmy, I could have gone to CAS for 2 years, and Jimmy says, "There's nothing here, but you can coach if you want to coach." I was like, "Yep, done." Like, didn't even ask about what money it was. Didn't care. It was like, this is what I want to do. This, like, it wasn't just to stay in the game. I was genuinely like obsessed by doing coaching. So then coached the team that I'd already been playing with, which was a bit weird in transition, which you've done it yourself, where you go from like thinking about the game differently, judging what was your teammates differently because your job's different, and so that was a learning curve. But I was easily able to detach myself from them. I lived in Manchester at the time, so I wasn't even really socialising as a player with them, and I were older and I'd had my kids and stuff. So the transition wasn't that different, but the relationship was different between them. But yeah, so then coached that year 15, and then coached 16. Then Rohan came at the end of that year, midway through that year. Jimmy had a fallout with a club, and he'd moved on, and Rohan came in, and just hit the road running with him straight away. He come in and caught me, and I just leaned in, and the way that he spoke and the way that he his philosophy on coaching were really similar to mine, but I never thought that you could coach that way.
Right.
I always thought it had to be with an iron stick and a little bit of putting your arm around him and stuff. But the way that he went about it, I was like, oh, it can be done that way. And I seen the change in the same players that Jimmy had in 6 weeks. The mindset had changed. The lads that couldn't get in the car quick enough, staying, doing more. Without him actually even like pushing on him or probing him into doing it, it was just by actually showing him a bit of care. So that's how our journey started, and then is at the other side of the world, always kept in touch, mentored me from afar. If I had any kind of issues with the academy and stuff, I'd generally go to Rohan for advice, because I know how he thinks and knows what he thinks about development and stuff. So so then the next thing he just lands is in. Gary had gone to Australia, and Rohan had kind of like got in touch, and I was like, this is a bit fishy. So
living a dream back full circle at
the
Rhinos with Rohan, somebody you described as being a mentor there. It's interesting when they come in, some of the vocabulary and the language I'd heard in you before, and I'm thinking, that's where a lot of it's been connected and that type of thing. And how much have you enjoyed it this year? I know obviously it's not been without its challenges, but I can see certainly the development with a lot of the players that are in there, and the progression and what it might look like in 12, 24 months' time. You must have enjoyed yourself and learnt a great deal as well. Yeah,
and it's like, it's not been ideal in results and stuff, and you question, I certainly do, question, am I part of the problem? Am I getting my bit right? Am I doing what's needed? And then you take a step back and you do look, and the bottom end are stronger than what's been before. And that's the players as well buying in. They're just not quite ready yet. They're not just quite ready to be in there every week and play. And I know people would expect, because of our generation, we came in, but there's a long term there, and we've got to look after these kids and let them be the future of the club. And it will come, because they're well more advanced than what I was. Maybe not athletically and stuff, but like rugby stuff, and you're blown away by some of the conversations, how they go about the business. Like ours was Kev. Kev was like the one that we all looked to. Now there's 4 or 5 of them that go about their own prep that way, and it's like, it's great to see. So the club will go in the right direction. We've just got to persevere through this bit, and it's not a transition. It's just finding ways to get the most out of them, and I'm sure it'll come. Rohan's in, us as a coaching staff are all in, and we're into making it better, not just trying to get the result now. It's a bigger picture thing.
And you'll know more than anybody, obviously works for a long period of time with our younger players. John Bastian back in there doing a great job, Mark Buttrell, Simon Bell. And listen, I'm a parent, and when I'm a parent, everything else melts away, you know, regardless of my history, and I see the development in a couple of my boys, so absolutely over the moon. Talking about our children, Lincoln, big Hull FC fan, talk to me. Says lad, big Hull FC fan. We've got Hull FC this week, so a bit of turmoil in your house. How did that come about?
So I took him to Wembley the 2 years that Hull won it, and Rad was like, "Oh, bring him in, get him in here."
Wow.
So Lincoln's got pictures with a cup, and that's it. I've had to buy him an Hull shirt every year since. He's planned it all out. He's as ambitious as I was at his age, and he's going to do his scholarship local, and then he's going to save up and pay himself out of his compensation if he has to. But he's going to Hull. He's got to go play for Hull Academy, and then he's going to be Hull's marquee player, and he's going to win everything with them. That's his goal. That's his aim. That's his goal. And yeah, he talks about it being us, and like I know we're laughing me early, but I'm like, you're not from Hull, you're from Manchester. Dad's from Leeds. He will not do anything that I've done. He wants to do better. Yeah. But yeah, so he's already started. He won't beat us on Saturday and la. So really? Yeah, so I'm not going to give him any breakfast for the rest of the week.
He's confident. He's confident, the lad. Apple don't fall far from a tree, does it? Talking about Hull then, Tony Smith. I think for me, what stood out about Hull this year is traditionally they have a terrible end to the season. Tony seems to have stopped that rot, and they're competing. I'm sure they're not where they want to be in the league table, but they are competing. They are going to be dangerous. Obviously lost Jake Truman there, but even in that adversity, they'll want to finish strong, and thus will be a challenge for us. What's our preparation like, and how do you see that panning out?
I think Hull are really starting to become a Tony Smith team.
Yeah.
They're playing with the ball a little bit more. They're being more adventurous and unorthodox. We have to take care of their big boppers and not let the game speed up. And then they've got some brilliant individuals. Clifford's playing really well. Yeah. He's dangerous on broken play and plays that he's made up. So we have to take our game up a notch, have some confidence in ourselves and look after his own game, and keep turning up on and making his D reads and his tackle reads and just doing the hard stuff. Do the hard stuff for each other and have some confidence in each other. Go get it.
Amen. Go get it. Go get at it. This Sunday, 3rd of September, we've got loads of Leeds Rhinos action going on as well. Our reserves team are in action at Robin Park against Wigan, 11:30 a.m. kick-off, whilst our wheelchair rugby league team are at the University of Leeds at the Edge, playing also against Wigan. That's a 1 p.m. kick-off. And our women will be over at St Helens, 1 p.m. kick-off. Also, all the very best to all three of those teams. Chev, been absolute pleasure chatting to you in Box 2. All the very best for this weekend. I'm going to be supporting the boys, as I'm sure you guys are. Next home games against Wigan Warriors the week after, but in the meantime, have a wonderful week. Get that West Hull, support our boys, and hopefully we'll see you there. God bless.